church has always functioned as the center
Okay.
for the Italian community and the Sicilian community.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Family, definitely Sicilian in its inception
Mm-hmm.
and culture.
Okay.
All right. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents, were married there in 1923
Mm-hmm.
by the pastor of that church, Father Vismara,
Okay.
who had quite a reputation within the Archdiocese of Detroit,
Okay.
and very admired. So my mother was baptized there
Mm-hmm.
when she was born in 1924. My mother was confirmed there.
Mm-hmm.
So my connection to the church through my grandparents.
So could you talk a little bit about the history of how Holy Family Church was established?
Holy Family was the fruit of the Sicilian desire to have a church of their own. It was nice to go to St. Peter and Paul,
Mm-hmm.
but ethnically, the Sicilians were a minority.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to go to San Francisco. That's where my grandfather's younger sister was baptized.
Mm-hmm.
But that's northern Italian.
Okay.
Okay, so the desire and through the insistence, Holy Family came about on property that was part of St. Peter and Paul Jesuit. Am I
It
correct?
became a parish in 1908.
1908,
Yeah.
as a parish, but the building
The
itself
building was erected in 10.
in
finished.
1910. Okay, so the two priests that were assigned there, Father Parodi and Father Basci, were Northern Italians.
Okay.
So he had to compromise on some things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they got the church, but they had to accept
Mm-hmm.
priests that were connected to Northern Italy. But that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got their desire fulfilled.
Well, what happened was there were 30 men
Mm-hmm.
originally from a couple different of the Sicilian towns that went out and collected money. So they would go door to door to ask for their nickels to start a church, to form a church.
Right. That's why it's very modest. And if they had anything to contribute in terms of doing labor or artistic contributions, that would come from them to do that within the church. We're not talking about a particular group of people that have money to any degree.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. And I'm not going to say that they were of the highest literacy
Mm-hmm.
either.
Mm-hmm.
They were very humble, and most of what they brought here, they either came as, like my great-grandfather was a fisherman in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he made his living.
Mm-hmm.
But when he came to the United States, he ended up as a fruit peddler.
What happened with us was I-375 freeway came in,
Mm-hmm.
and they tore down all the housing. So our street was originally Hastings and Fort Street. We were on Hastings, and the corner was Fort.
Mm-hmm.
They leveled everything, and by the grace of a few men who kind of knew Comine Young
Mm-hmm.
and kind of went to him and insisted he leave that church there.
Mm-hmm.
Comine Young went to Catholic Church at St. Mary's
Mm-hmm.
and was raised with the Italians, and he knew many of them, and so he gave a little extra room
Mm-hmm.
and left the church there for him. So then completely no neighborhood at all, which meant anyone who came there
It was a commuter.
Was
became
coming-
a commuter-oriented.
became a commuter. And first they would just go into places like East Point or Harper Woods or
Mhm.
St. Clair Shores. But now our parishioners are out Rochester or Shelby.
Sicilians ended up on the east side
Mm-hmm.
of Detroit, and they continued eastward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as the suburbs became more available,
Mm-hmm.
that migration kept going east.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely the east side of the city, Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
The west side, however, becoming more northern Italian.
So for people who don't know, where is Holy Family Church located?
On the service drive of I-375 next to Greektown.
Okay.
So what would have been there originally was French and Irish and German families,
Okay.
of which all pretty much started to move in as the Italians moved in.
Okay.
And also, I might add, the Hastings area, the Black Bottom area,
Right.
where that was primarily African American.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is in relation to where Holy Family is now. My grandparents, my mother's parents, had a grocery store at Russell and Congress.
Okay.
They had a grocery store there.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother, for the first 4 years of my mother's life, lived above the store in an apartment. So that's what was there.
As the Sicilian community continues to expand, how would you describe the attendees or the demographics of who's attending now? Do you see a lot of youth, or was there a big youth piece in terms of maintaining that tradition and legacy?
That's a struggle for us, but I can tell by photographs it's been a struggle always.
Mm-hmm.
Once that neighborhood left and there were no children in that neighborhood, the older people would come back for their feast days, but they didn't seem to bring their grandchildren or children with them. It was always just adults. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's 15 feast days a year, those are the only days we may see children. So it's a struggle for any of the historic churches downtown. But they all speak. 80% of them speak Italian.
Okay.
That come. So racially it has been passed down, which is wonderful.